Manipulation isn't rare, and it isn't limited to extreme personalities. It happens because human beings are social creatures. We rely on trust, emotional signals, shared norms, and cooperation to function. Those same systems make influence possible, and in some cases, exploitable. Most manipulation doesn't announce itself as control. It presents itself as logic, care, urgency, fairness, or necessity. That's why intelligent, experienced people fall for it just as often as anyone else. Manipulation doesn't target weakness. It targets human wiring. Understanding manipulation is not about becoming suspicious of everyone. It's about recognizing when influence crosses into distortion, when pressure replaces consent, and when someone benefits from your confusion. Forced urgency. One of the most common manipulation techniques is artificial urgency. This occurs when someone pressures you to make a decision quickly, framing delay as dangerous, irresponsible, or costly. You see this in sales, but also in relationships and workplaces. Decide now, or the opportunity is gone. If you don't act today, everything falls apart. The urgency often feels external, but it's usually manufactured. Psychologically, urgency reduces analytical thinking. The brain shifts from evaluation to reaction. When time feels scarce, people rely on shortcuts, emotions, and authority cues rather than evidence. The key indicator is disproportion. Real emergencies come with verifiable constraints. Manipulated urgency comes with emotional pressure but vague consequences. Handling it means slowing the interaction down, not speeding yourself up. Saying "I need time to think" is not a refusal. It's a boundary. Anyone who reacts negatively to that boundary is revealing the manipulation. Guilt framing. Guilt-based manipulation works by making you responsible for someone else's emotional state. The message isn't always explicit. Often it's implied, "After all I've done for you," or "I wouldn't ask if it weren't important." This technique is powerful because guilt evolved to maintain social bonds. It keeps groups cooperative. Manipulators exploit this by attaching guilt to reasonable boundaries, transforming normal self-interest into perceived moral failure. The distinguishing feature is imbalance. Healthy guilt arises when you violate your own values. Manipulated guilt arises when someone assigns you responsibility for outcomes you don't control. The response is not argument, it's clarification. You acknowledge their feeling without accepting ownership of it. "I understand you're disappointed" does not mean "I'm obligated to comply." Gaslighting. Gaslighting is a manipulative tactic designed to undermine a person's sense of reality, often in a slow, insidious way. It's not merely a disagreement, it's the intentional, gradual erosion of someone's confidence in their own perceptions, memories, and emotional responses. This manipulation is subtle, usually starting with small contradictions or trivializing comments like "you're being too sensitive" or "that never happened." Over time, these repeated statements create doubt and confusion, making the victim question their own judgment and even their mental stability. What makes gaslighting so dangerous is the power imbalance. The gaslighter asserts their version of events with unwavering confidence, while casting doubt on the target's reality. The target starts to feel uncertain, increasingly relying on the manipulator's perspective as truth, even when it feels wrong. This confusion builds over time, distorting the target's sense of self and perception of reality. To combat gaslighting, it's crucial to maintain external anchors, things that can ground you in your own reality. Writing things down, recording important conversations, and checking perceptions with neutral third parties can help preserve clarity. The goal is not to engage in a battle to win the argument, but to protect your mental and emotional well-being. Maintaining a connection to your own truth is the first step toward breaking free from the manipulation. The foot-in-the-door technique. This manipulation technique often starts with small, seemingly harmless requests, things that feel reasonable and unobjectionable in the moment. At first, agreeing to these requests doesn't seem like a big deal. However, over time, these requests grow in scale, and you find yourself doing things you would have previously refused without hesitation. The gradual escalation makes it difficult to pinpoint when things cross the line. The psychology behind this is rooted in consistency. Humans tend to view themselves as rational and coherent, so once we say yes to something, we're more likely to say yes again in the future. It creates a pattern of behavior that helps us avoid cognitive dissonance or internal conflict. We want our actions to align with past choices even when the stakes change. The manipulation occurs when the initial request is designed not to meet a real need but to lower resistance, setting the stage for larger, more demanding asks down the line. The key to defending against this is to evaluate each request on its own merit, without letting past agreements influence your decision. You're not obligated to comply simply because you said yes before. Changing your answer when the scope or context changes is not only reasonable, but necessary to maintain control over your choices. Authority manipulation. People are conditioned to defer to authority figures. Titles, credentials, uniforms, and confident language all trigger compliance mechanisms. Manipulation happens when authority is used to bypass explanation. This is just how it's done. "Trust me, I know better." The request is framed as unquestionable rather than justified. Legitimate authority welcomes scrutiny. Manipulative authority discourages it. The response is simple but uncomfortable. Ask for reasoning. Not confrontation, but curiosity. "Can you explain why?" Exposes whether authority is being used to inform or to control. Emotional withholding. Some manipulation doesn't involve pressure at all. Instead, it involves withdrawal, silence, distance, reduced affection, or emotional coldness used strategically. This works because humans are sensitive to social exclusion. We are wired to repair bonds. When warmth is removed, people often try to earn it back, even if they don't understand what they did wrong. The key indicator is contingency. If affection or communication disappears specifically after you assert a boundary, it's not emotional processing. It's leverage. Handling this requires resisting the urge to chase clarity from someone who is withholding it. You can offer communication, but you cannot negotiate with silence. False dichotomies. This technique presents only two choices, often extreme ones. Either you're with me or against me. Either we do this my way or everything fails. The manipulation lies in omission. Other options exist, but they're deliberately excluded to force compliance. False dichotomies create pressure by framing disagreement as betrayal or disaster. The response is to name the missing options. Simply asking, "Are those really the only choices?" re-expands the decision space. Projection. Projection occurs when someone attributes their own behaviors or intentions to you. Accusations feel sudden, misaligned, or oddly specific. This tactic deflects accountability by keeping you defensive. You spend energy disproving claims rather than evaluating the accuser's actions. The key sign is asymmetry. The accusation doesn't match your behavior but mirrors theirs. Handling projection means refusing to debate the false premise. You redirect attention to observable behavior rather than emotional accusation. Love bombing. Love bombing involves excessive affection, praise, or attention early on. It feels flattering, even intoxicating, but the intensity is unsustainable and often conditional. This technique creates rapid emotional investment before trust is earned. Once attachment forms, control can follow. Healthy connection builds gradually. Manipulative intensity skips stages. The response is pacing. You don't need to reject affection, but you do need to maintain independent judgment while emotions are high. Playing the victim. Some manipulators use vulnerability itself as leverage. They present themselves as perpetually wronged, misunderstood, or helpless. This draws sympathy and discourages boundaries. Saying no feels cruel. Disagreement feels like attack. The indicator is repetition without resolution. The same crises recur, but no change follows. Compassion does not require self-sacrifice. You can care without being consumed. How to handle manipulation without becoming hard. The goal is not to become cynical or emotionally closed, it's to stay grounded. Most manipulation collapses when three things are present: time, clarity, and boundaries. You slow interactions down. You ask for specifics. You separate feelings from obligations. Manipulation thrives in confusion. It weakens when things are named calmly. You don't need to diagnose anyone. You don't need to confront aggressively. You just need to stay oriented to your own perceptions and limits. Influence is unavoidable. Humans shape each other constantly. The line between influence and manipulation is crossed when someone benefits from your loss of clarity. Once you understand the patterns, they stop feeling mysterious. They stop feeling personal. And most importantly, you stop feeling responsible for managing someone else's reality at the cost of your own. That's not hardness, that's stability.